Let's welcome on board Probal Sen, the Vice President Equity Research at ICICI Securities as well, to talk to us about Reliance Industries earnings. Probal, hi, good morning. Thank you so much for making time and speaking with us. Apart from the numbers, what are the things that you're watching out for from the management commentary this time around? Would demerger, restructuring be top of mind?
If historical precedent is anything to go, a demerger or a restructuring event or a news is typically left to the AGM in terms of announcements. I would be surprised if it is discussed alongside the quarterly numbers. I think what will be important to note is what is the outlook on refining in particular that the company shares, because there's been a huge amount of volatility. GRMs in Singapore benchmarks have gone from $29.50 to less than $3 in a matter of about a month and a half. So it would be interesting to hear what sort of outlook they share in terms of, what is actually happening on the ground and what is the sense they have in terms of refining outlook. Any updates they can share in terms of, the impact of the windfall tax. I don't know if they'll share any numbers in terms of dollar per barrel impact, but what changes and what sort of feedback they're getting from the government with respect to, the changes in the duty structure and how frequently it will be changed. I think outlook on that, plus of course, the regular updates in terms of how the retail business is doing, how well it is recovering, as well as the signs of recovery or strength in the mobility business in terms of either ARPU improvement. We do expect net subs to probably be positive for the first time in the last several quarters for this quarter. So updates on those businesses will be the key monitorables.
Thanks, Probal, for that. But let's scratch that point further regarding the mobility business that you talked about. Telecom, vertical itself is facing a lot of moving parts with a fresh entry of Adani into the fray, not maybe in the consumer mobility business, but at least there's nervousness around that. And there is talk of a fresh round of, tariff hike as well. How are you valuing the entire telecom basket?
Well, Telecom, to be honest with you, is covered by a separate team. So as per the Telecom team's research estimates, I can tell you that the financial prospects, on an annualized basis, continue to look fairly strong. Our telecom team builds in a subscriber level of around 439 subs, for FY23, with an ARPU increase to about 185 odd levels from about 150 rupees in 2022. So there is a little bit of tariff hike built in, and that translates to a fairly substantial growth in EBITDA, to about 49,000 crore for this financial year, compared to about 37,000 crore in the last year. As far as valuation is concerned, if I look at the implied valuation that we do, we value it on sort of DCF, particularly the mobility business, which translates to something like 5.4 trillion of net value, stripping out the value that has been sold to other investors, which is about 800 rupees a share in our overall SOTP valuations.
Good morning, Probal. Nentar also joining in. I appreciate the fact that you look more at the oil to chemical part of the business. But the fact is that, in Q2, what we may also see is a big outlay from Reliance when it comes to 5G auctions, right? Just going by the eligibility points, maximum it can bid is 1.2 lakh crore rupees. The question I want to ask you that, do you think for some time the best that had to come for Reliance is behind us, just the way the GRMs are? The fact that you started to see commodity deflation also that started to take place. And then on top of that, a big capex that may have to be incurred because of the auctions.
Sorry, I didn't get the entire question. If I can just encapsulate, I think your question was that since there is a large amount of capex coming in 5G and GRMs have also probably hit their peak in Q1, do prospects for Reliance look a little bit weaker for the rest of the year? Is that correct?
Is the best behind us?
Hello?
Yes, that's exactly what I was asking you. Is the best behind us for some time?
Well, I think it depends on what is the base that you're looking for. If you're looking at Q1 and then looking at Q2 and Q3, obviously the numbers for Q2 and Q3 will not look anywhere near as strong as what the Q1 earnings would look like. But if one looks at from a YOI perspective, given the earnings that they reported in FY22, FY23 and FY24 earnings CAGR will still be in the high 20s, even if you were to build in fairly conservative GRMs of sub $10 levels, factoring in the impact of the duties and the fact that, there is a demand concern that's now creeping in to both crude prices and product demand. But from an earnings growth standpoint, I still believe that Reliance is set to probably deliver some of the strongest years in its history over FY23 and 24. Your point about the capex is very valid. The fact of the matter is that after the downstream capex and mobility capex got over in FY 2021, there was an expectation that annualized capex would drop down to levels of around 50 to 55,000 crore. That has obviously not happened. And that's one of the reasons why our rating has always been a little bit more cautious. We don't really have, a very aggressive rating on the stock, because return ratios actually reflect that higher capex flowing through over the next couple of years as well. So the capital allocation continues to be much higher, I think, than what previous estimates indicated. And therefore, the earnings increase as well as the higher cash flows doesn't really reflect in, return ratios or the cash flows flowing through in terms of the business.
Okay, so we're all on standby for the numbers to be out this Friday. Reliance always comes out with these numbers on a Friday, and each quarter gets later and later. My co-anchor Aisha thinks it'll be between 7 and 7:30 p.m. We've had a wager. I'm saying between 7:30 and 8 p.m. Let's see, whatever it is, we promise our viewers the best of analysis with the best of experts. Thanks a lot, Probal, for joining us live today. We're going to take a short commercial break up, but stay tuned. A lot more coming up on the other side. We're also going to be in touch with Persistent. Remember, their numbers are out. You're seeing the mid-tier IT companies very much in focus. More on that when we return.